I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Sarah, and together we're the co-founders of Whale Tales, a living library of cetacean stories.
Today we're heading north to discuss bowhead whales.
Plus a holiday classic themed dolphin tale.
So sit back and enjoy as we dive right in.
Hello. Happy winter for our Northern Hemisphere listeners. Happy summer. I'm jealous for anyone listening in the South. For this month's episode, we are diving into the last of the 3 all-year-round living Arctic whales, because we have discussed belugas, we have discussed narwhals, but we've saved the biggest and best, maybe, for last. We're talking about bowhead whales today. And the bowhead whale is the only baleen whale that actually spends its entire life in Arctic and subarctic waters. Many baleen whales visit, only the bowhead can tough out the winter.
Some taxonomy before we get started. Carl Linnaeus, we all know him.
Big deal. Big deal in the naming world.
In the naming
centuries ago.
Yep. Named the species in his 10th edition of Systema Naturae in 1758. It was seemingly identical to its relatives in the North Atlantic, North Pacific, and Southern Oceans, and so they were all thought to be the same species, collectively known as the right whale, and given the name Balaenia mysticetus. But now, the bowhead whale occupies a monotypic genus, so it's just them, separate from the right whales, as proposed by John Edward Gray in 1821.
Because, surprise, surprise, there's taxonometric debate. This just should be the theme of all our episodes.
All
basically.
Episodes ever. So for the next 180 years, the family Balenidae was the subject of a great taxonomic debate, as always, like all the other cetacean families. They repeatedly recategorized the 3 populations of right whales and the bowhead whales as 1, 2, 3, 4 species in a single genus or 2 separates, and that sounds exhausting. Oh my god. These textbooks, man. Studies in the 2000s finally provided clear evidence that the 3 living right whale species are a phylogenetic lineage distinct from bowheads, and that bowheads and right whales are 2 separate genera. Right whales are confirmed to be a separate genus, Eubalaenia. So,
nice.
Finally.
Okay.
For now. Finally for now.
Finally for now. Nothing's final. Okay, let's talk about what they look like. You might have seen pictures of them, but probably not a lot of people have seen them in person. I haven't, for sure. So bowheads they have a large, really robust, like they're big, sturdy creatures. They've got a dark colored body and a white or lighter colored chin and lower jaw. They have a massive triangular shaped skull, which is handy for breaking through the Arctic ice to breathe. Inuit hunters have reported bowheads surfacing, like breaking through 60 centimeters or 24 inches of ice. It's amazing. And they have the largest mouth of any animal, with the largest baleen plates being a maximum length of 4 meters or 13 feet, which is
is really long.
Bigger than a lot of dolphins.
Yep.
And porpoises. All the porpoises.
Yep, all the porpoises.
The bowhead whales, they have a paired blowhole at the highest point on their head, and they can make a pretty big blow, 6.1 meters or 20 feet high, which is, seems pretty big to me. And their blubber is the thickest of that of any animal, which makes sense because they are the largest Arctic, like fully Arctic whale. And their blubber has a maximum of like 43 to 50 centimeters or 17 to 19 inches, which is a lot. Similar to their neighbors, the belugas and the narwhal, the bowhead does not have a dorsal fin, which is an adaptation for spending so much time under the sea ice. Bowhead whales are comparable in size to the 3 species of right whales. The largest that has been reliably measured, although it's pretty tricky to measure them because of all the ice, was a male of 16.2 meters or 53 feet and a female of 18 meters or 59 feet. And on average, the female bowheads are larger than males. The adults, they think, weigh around 80 metric tons or 88 short tons.
Let's talk about the behavior of bowhead whales. Bowhead whales are not a particularly social species of cetacean. They are typically seen traveling alone or sometimes in small groups, maybe up to 6 animals, especially when it's mating season, but more on that later. They are able to dive and remain underwater for up to an hour, but that is extreme. Much more often, their dive times are between 9 and 18 minutes. And though they're not a deep diver, they can reach depths of about 150 meters or 500 feet. So they're not topping out any of the deep diving scales that we've talked about with some other cetaceans in the past, but not bad, bowhead whale. They are obviously built very differently than most other baleen whales, except the right whales, which see Lindsay's previous section about confusion. And they do look very similar to right whales. They're not built for speed. They are built for bulk. And so their approach is more of kind of like a cruising approach than a whoosh, let's go. They are very slow swimmers, normally traveling at about, 2 to 5 kilometers an hour.
Oh boy.
Nice. It's like
1 to 3 miles per hour. Yeah, just a leisurely cruise.
Yeah, good job.
Though, when fleeing from danger, they can travel at a whopping speed of, are you ready for it? 10 kilometers an hour.
Speed demons. So speedy.
Very important to be bulky when that is the speed you top out at.
Yes.
Yeah, big and bulky. Due to their build, they tend to forage in more of a continuous skim feeding behavior. So they'll actually just kind of like swim for hours, just kind of consistently filter feeding that whole time rather than any of the, perhaps more impressive lunge feeding or bubble net feeding behaviors that you see from other baleen whales. Still really impressive what they're eating, though. Their diet does consist mostly of zooplankton, as we would expect from a baleen whale, something like copepods, amphipods, small crustaceans. But they're eating about 1.8 tons or 2 short tons a day.
So that's like 10% of their body weight.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I feel like I would like to approach life as a bowhead whale does.
Seems very cozy.
Constantly moving very, very,
very
slow.
slowly.
Actually, you know what? Let's just be honest. I did approach life like a bowhead whale during the early days of the pandemic. I would slowly walk around my house, eating any time I walked through any room that had food.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep. Grazing, as it were.
So bowhead whales are highly vocal and use a low frequency, less than 1,000 hertz, low frequency sounds, to communicate while traveling, feeding, and socializing. Intense calls for communication and navigation are produced, especially during migration season. And during breeding, they make long, complex, variable songs for mating calls. From 2010 to 2014, near Greenland, 184 distinct songs were recorded from a population of about 300 animals. So that's a lot. Sexual activity occurs between pairs and in boisterous groups of several males and 1 or 2 females. Breeding season is observed March through August, and conception is believed to occur primarily in March when song activity is at its highest. Reproduction can begin when a whale is 10 to 15 years old, and the gestation period is 13 to 14 months, which is pretty much in the middle of everybody. And females produce a calf once every 3 to 4 years. And lactation typically lasts about a year, which makes sense. To survive in the cold water after birth, calves are born with a super thick layer of blubber. A newborn calf is typically 4 to 4.5 meters long, weighing roughly 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds, and grows to 8.2 meters or 26 feet within its first year.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, yeah, if you think about belugas, which are smaller, but they also get big and fat super fast.
So
yeah,
because you got to get
reason.
Yeah, you got to get big and warm, big and able to stay warm before your first winter. Yep.
Well, because if they get pregnant in March, so that's like what they give birth the next June, July.
Yeah.
So they've got 3-4 months to
to pack it on,
get ready.
Yeah. Most people, even if they don't know much else about bowhead whales, even like not whale nerds like us, might know that they are considered to be the longest living mammals, consistently thought to live for over 200 years. And we have some some solid proof for that. In 2007, a 15-meter specimen was caught off of the Alaskan coast and discovered with the head of an explosive bomb lance of a model. So basically like some sort of part of a harpoon or some weapon used for whaling, that was only manufactured between 1879 and 1885. So the whale was probably lanced sometime between those years, and its age at the time of death was then estimated to be between 115 and 130 years. And so then, spurred by this discovery, they started like, how old are the other ones that we know about? And so they started doing some studies. One specimen was estimated to be 211 years old. Other bowhead whales have been estimated between 135 and 172 years old. And according to research done at CSIRO in Australia, their national science agency, the genome sequence revealed bow whales' maximum lifespan to be 268 years, which is, I don't know how they do that, I guess just with like comparing the certain parts of their genome to other animals and then sort of doing some math. I'm not really sure.
One of those things that I guess we'll find out maybe one day. We just have to wait for the 268 years to happen.
I guess so, yeah, because like now we'll know, like now we've been tracking certain individuals for decades at least, so we'll just keep counting.
Keep on waiting. Yeah, but this, like, when we talk about like constantly grazing, moving slowly, very big and thick, like those are the kinds of things we see
in other long
animals. You think about Greenland sharks and tortoises and elephants, like they, like, you don't move fast and
you're real like, big, you're big, like way bigger than most of your predators. You move slow, and also they eat pretty high up on the food chain. Like, you know, they're eating zooplankton, not like large fish, so their toxin load is smaller than something. Even if they're eating like medium-sized fish, right, they'd be getting like one more level of toxic load. Speaking of their genetics, in 2015 scientists from the US and the UK were able to successfully map the whale's entire genome, and through some comparative analysis they found a couple of alleles that could be responsible for their longevity. There's the ERCC1 gene and the proliferating cell nuclear antigen PCNA gene, and these are both linked to DNA repair and also cancer resistance, which I guess that kind of goes together because cancer is like mutations in your DNA due to errors. So so they're able to like prevent and repair problems in their DNA, basically, which can contribute to not getting cancer, which can contribute to living longer. Good job.
And also is what the persistent rumor going around that sharks don't get cancer is because of these same Greenland sharks, which is the same thing. They live for a long time, so they have, I assume, very similar or the same genes.
Or genes that
rumor gets
thing.
around, and that's how Deep Blue Sea gets made. And you know,
good times.
Yep.
So generally, we're going to get into a little bit of a sort of sub conflict of the taxonomy conflict, which is population stocks. So generally, there's considered to be 5 distinct populations or stocks of bowhead whales: the Western Arctic stock, the Baffin Bay and Davis Strait stock, the Hudson Bay and Fox Basin stock, the Sea of Okhotsk, and the Svalbard Bartens Sea stock. So those are our 5. Sorry about the pronunciation. I'm just making it up. We're a class researched act.
Hey, we never said we could speak Russian.
True.
So.
True. So the 2 stocks that we know the most about are the Western Arctic stock and the Baffin Bay stock. So the Western Arctic stock is found in the Bering, Chukchi, and Beaufort seas. And a 2019 study estimated that the Western Arctic population was about 12,505 individuals. And this, in fact, may be nearing its pre-commercial whaling level. Hooray! This stock is considered to be the most stable It's not classified as being vulnerable or endangered. It's considered low risk and still something to watch for, as with any whaling population. But yay, Western Arctic stock. The Baffin Bay and Davis Strait stock is found in, go figure, Baffin Bay and Davis Strait, and this stock is larger. It's 14,400 animals, which also corresponds to pre-whaling estimates, which would indicate that the population has fully recovered. However, this stock is actually still classified as endangered, and part of this is because as climate change is substantially shrinking the sea ice in this area, these whales are increasingly threatened by increased shipping traffic. And so there is great variability in their population numbers. So it's not the same as in the Western Arctic, where things have been really stable and really good for a long time. This stock is still fluctuating quite greatly. So they are considered to be endangered. And then of the other three populations, the Hudson Bay and Fox Basin stock is estimated to be at about 1,026 individuals based on a 2005 study by Fisheries and Oceans Canada. They are classified as vulnerable. The Sea of Okhotsk, that's my best that I'm going to do, stock is, according to Russian scientists, only about 400 animals, so go figure they are also endangered. And our smallest little sea stock, the Svalbard Barents sea stock, is the most endangered, but, and this is the saddest part of the story, they were actually historically the largest population. They were hit the hardest by whaling, and there are less than 100 animals left in that population. So they are very endangered. Now, recent evidence does suggest that the Hudson Bay and Fox Basin stock and the Baffin Bay and Davis Strait stock should actually be considered one population because of genetics and the way that they move around. Go back and listen to Lindsay's taxonomy discussion today, or any other time that we've talked about any cetacean.
Yeah.
Populations are hard.
So confusing.
Well, and isn't one of these the Hudson Bay one? They haven't counted them since 2005. So
yeah.
like they haven't, like they don't, they're saying this stuff, but I'm like, maybe just go out and count them first.
Yeah.
And then go from there. Like it's only 1,000. It's not that complicated.
Well, I mean, it's
they're real big and they move real slow.
Exactly.
Over a large area.
Like I know there's ice and everything, but like it's not. Yeah, you're not trying to count 40,000 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, update your research and then go from
yes,
there,
and then make a decision about genetics and movement.
The point of making them one stock would be to update their IUCN status, and you can't do that till you have an active population number anyway. So
yeah.
So step 1, count whales. Okay, so threats, as you may have thought, since all those populations are not super great. Whaling was the biggest one. Their population was severely reduced before a 1966 moratorium was passed to protect the species. Indigenous whaling does occur on a subsistence level, but this is carefully managed and not currently a threat. Hunts in West Greenland and Canada are minimal, less than 0.001% annually, and both stocks are rising, and Indigenous hunts seem to be self-sustaining, similar to probably what Indigenous hunts were before.
Yeah, for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killer whales are also known as to be predators. Bowheads seek the ice and shallow water safety when they're threatened by the killer whales. The Inuit do have a word for this behavior to give historical context. So this isn't a new phenomenon, but climate change is increasing the frequency that killer whales are observed in the far north. It was once rare, and now they're seen more frequently, causing problems for bowheads and narwhals and belugas and everything else that lives up there. Those pesky little orcas.
We like killer whales. We don't want them to go places they haven't already been, because they're a very good predator.
Yes.
Yep.
Killer whales good.
Good.
Climate change bad?
Yep.
That's our TED Talk.
Yep. I probably could do a TED Talk on that. Yeah. So that is our summary of the amazing bowhead whales. I think they're pretty spectacular animals. Having seen some photos, just the scale of especially their mouths is just unbelievable and so cool. And it's so great that, I mean, obviously not all of their population is doing awesome, but there has been some really great success stories in a couple of the populations, at least, since the end of whaling of this species. So that is great. And yeah, we did all the whales in a whole ecosystem, guys.
We did it. Step 1.
I mean, all the winter whales. All the year-round whales, yeah.
Yeah. If we're crossing things off the 90 plus species list, we're doing great.
So great. Good job, friends.
We do have a naming for bowheads, so in case you were wondering, they are named after bows like Katniss and Hawkeye, and not bows like Christmas presents.
Or also and also bows of boats. They're named after like hunting bows.
Hunting bows. So the shape.
Bow and arrow.
A picture of a bowhead's mouth. It makes a lot of sense. It's completely exactly.
I always thought it was like bows of ships because based on the shape of their head. But the name comes from the shape of their mouth.
And speaking of things to read, first read that because I love that blog post. But also much of the information in today's episode came from a beautiful book that I cannot recommend highly enough. It's called The Bowhead Whale. It came out in 2021, so it's full of recent research, and it's edited by J.C. George and J.G.M. Thuysen. It is a gorgeous book. It is huge, but really readable. Well, I should say it's filled with chapters that are short journal articles. So it's readable from an academia perspective. I wouldn't say this is something to like read with your kids who are interested in learning about bowhead whales. It is definitely at a more advanced level, but it reads really quickly and it's fascinating. It goes into huge amounts of depth in biology, way more than we did in this podcast, because we aren't going to recite a textbook for you. But there's also a whole section on human interactions with bowhead whales. So if you want to learn more about the history of whaling, specifically with the species, but also how that has evolved and changed, and some indigenous history that we just don't feel we're the right people to share that, I would really recommend this book. So you can get it wherever your academic books are sold, and I love it. I'm gonna send Lindsay some pictures of it so that she can put it on our Instagram.
Yay. Yeah, basically the existence of that book. I mean, obviously we were at some point going to do a bowhead episode, but the fact that this book came out recently was why we wanted to do this podcast episode, and to let you guys all know about this awesome book that's written by, I mean, it's edited by some a couple people, but like all the articles are written by, I'm assuming, some really great researchers that I'm excited
there's so many
to check out. I don't know. We always like sending people in the direction of like well-written, more in-depth stuff. Yeah. Well-written science. Good job, folks.
Well, and actually, the picture I'll send you, Linz, because like the very first page of the book, even before like the title, whatever the page is called that has all the copyright information and stuff.
Yeah.
The very first page of the book is a 1599 map.
What?
Like a map from 1599 where they would draw sea monsters. And the little like caption to it is talking like there's like a bunch of little sea monster-esque whales drawn on it, and it's of sort of it's Greenland and a little bit of whatever Russia was at that point in time. I don't know. And it was sort of a whaler, a Dutch whaler at the time, trying to find the Northeast Passage. And where these whale monsters are drawn on the map actually correspond to historical records of bowhead whale whaling sites.
Wow.
So I've never looked, I mean, I love maps. I love any kind of map. I'm a big map person. I love old maps with like
President Bartlett?
Yes. Like the beautiful drawings and stuff on them, but I've never looked at one of those maps with like the ships and the monsters drawn on them and thought, oh, those monsters
are probably real animals.
Were probably real animals. But no, that was, oh gosh. So like that's the first thing you see when you open the book, and oh, cool. Love it. Love this book.
Before we continue with the rest of the episode, we want to take a moment to tell you about how you can support our podcast and everything else that we do at Whale Tales.
You can join us by becoming a patron at patreon.com/whaletales. You can join us for $1 a month at the porpoise level, $5 a month at the dolphin level, or $10 a month at the whale level.
Woohoo! And each level comes with a variety of perks, like being able to vote in polls to help us decide what we're going to talk about on future episodes, discounts on our merch, thank you postcards signed by the three of us, access to extended interviews and extra stories we have when we have guests on the podcast, and fun bonus episodes that we do. Plus, at the whale level, you can actually produce your own fun flipper fact segment of the pod.
Thank you so much to our patrons. You are amazing and are helping us do everything that we do.
Indeed. And if you aren't able to support us financially, that's okay. We totally understand. There's still lots that you can do to help us out if you feel so inclined. You can leave us a rating and a review on your podcast platform of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast from, and that will help other people find us. And you can also just tell people that you think would like the podcast about it in person so that they can listen too.
You can follow us on social media at whaletales_org, plus send us your feedback so we can keep making the podcast even better.
Yeah, and keep an eye out on our socials for some exciting announcements coming very soon.
Indeed.
Mystery. So, everyone know what time it is now?
I do. Yeah, I do.
It's time for Fun Flipper Fact. Fun Flipper Fact. It's time to have some fun with the Fun Flipper Fact.
Oh, so
I knew that was going to happen.
Thank you. Today's Fun Flipper Fact is continuing the theme, still about bowheads, but a really kind of like random fact that I discovered in researching the bowhead whale that didn't really fit anywhere that we were covering in the main part of the pod. So strap in, because this one is awesome. They all are, let's be honest. So this was something that was discovered quite recently in terms of, bowhead knowledge. In 2013, a study clarified the function of a rather large organ located inside a bowhead whale's mouth. It's called the palatal radial organ, and if you take your tongue and you rub it against the roof of your mouth, and you are kind of in the middle, there, that's your palate, right? That's the palate inside your mouth. And so if you were to do that in a bowhead whale's mouth, and let's remember, we could all stand up with plenty of ceiling room inside a bowhead whale's mouth. Ours is fairly smooth inside our mouths when you feel your palate. A bowhead whale actually has an organ, like a specific organ along the center of the roof of their mouth. And there are some pictures that you can find of this online, particularly like detailed sketches from textbooks. Really, really cool. No one really knew what it was for. Like, it might have something to do with baleen or filtering. Who knows? Turns out this bulbous ridge consists of highly vascularized tissue, and it extends all along the hard plate, forming two large lobes near the back. The organ is thought to provide a mechanism for the whale to be able to cool themselves to prevent hyperthermia. Huh. So, thinking about the fact that they live in the Arctic, it's very, very cold, and they have their mouth open a lot.
Makes sense.
Which is the thing that is different about them compared to belugas and narwhals. Because they're cruising along in freezing cold Arctic waters for hours on end with their mouth just open so that they can eat, what was it? Almost 2 short tons 2 short tons of food a day. That's a lot of that's brain freeze to the extreme, basically. Right? So during physical exertion, what they do is the organ, this palatal renal organ becomes engorged with blood, so that when the whale's mouth is open and the cold seawater flows over the organ, it cools the blood down.
Oh.
And then that blood obviously is moving everywhere else around the body, and it kind of just cools internally their whole body down. So try that the next time you have a Slurpee. I don't know.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's the same as like we sweat or dogs pant or whatever. It's, yeah, like thermoregulation. But it seems funny that they'd have to do that, but they're so used to being protected by all that blubber that, yeah, that's so crazy. Awesome.
And also, like, if you think about brain freeze, the first thing that you do, like wives' tale or whatever, is put your tongue on the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
So, like, there's some similarities there. We just don't have the super fancy organ because our mouths are smaller. And we weren't designed to drink Slurpees. It just happened.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful happenstance. So there we go. Very, very cool. Hope you enjoyed your fun flipper fact.
Hooray! And now, a special Christmas story for all the children.
Yeah, gather round.
Gather round. We may have told this story before, but it's so on theme and so Christmassy. Nicole?
So this is not a bowhead whale story, unfortunately. In fact, in our library, we only have one lone bowhead whale. But it has accompanied some really incredible pictures of a bowhead whale in Greenland. By Flo. So thanks, Flo. We love your story. If you've seen a bowhead whale, please add your story to our library so that one little story is not all by itself. But the story that I'm going to tell you tonight, I'm going to put on my best mom storytelling voice, is a story I wrote called "'Twas the Night Before Dolphins." 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through BC, lots of creatures were swimming and jumping at sea. The waves were all breaking ashore without care, and sea lions roared, so you'd know they were there. Sea otters were nestled all snug in kelp beds, while decorator crabs put new hats on their heads. The humpbacks were singing and headed down south, and the octopuses were searching for food for its mouth. When out in the water there arose such a racket that the lighthouse keeper rushed outside with her jacket. She looked high and low to see what was the cause of the noises she'd heard. Was it flippers or paws? The moon on the crest of the slow rolling waves shone bright on the edge of the small island caves, when what to her wondering eyes should appear but a startling number of dolphins, quite clear. They were gray with white stripes, they were lively and quick, and the vocals they made were all squeals and clicks. More rapid than eagles the dolphins they came. She whistled and shouted and called them by name. These dolphins have not been seen here for so long. I must check my books in case I am wrong. But I truly believe what I'm seeing tonight is the return of Pacific white-sided dolphins. All right.
Hooray!
Yay! Yay, yay, yay.
I hope you enjoyed that. That makes me laugh every time I return to it. This is based on true facts that when Pacific white-sided dolphins returned, in quotes, to the coast of British Columbia, they were thought to be seen for the first time offshore on Christmas Eve in 1984. And their vocals were picked up on hydrophones in Johnson Strait. And the lighthouse keepers and researchers were very, very excited to see them. It was a nice little Christmas present.
Yeah.
Pacific white-sided dolphins have been here. There's records from First Nations archaeological sites and from Indigenous stories and language. So they have certainly been here on the coast over 2,000 years ago. But they were not seen here very frequently for a very, very, very long time. And ever since Christmas Eve, 1984, they have been frequent visitors along our shores. Though I don't see them a lot.
No.
So Merry Christmas to me.
Oh, so great. I was doing a little like happy dance because I've heard that story so many times and it's always at Christmassy things and it
Christmassy
just makes me feel Christmassy and happy.
Yeah.
As much as I love the dolphins, I really think my favorite line from the whole thing was actually the decorator crabs.
Yeah, no,
yes.
me too.
Uh-huh.
It's because decorator crabs are the best.
So cute. So before we head out, we wanted to leave you with maybe some calls to action that, maybe you can sneak in before you celebrate the holidays, or maybe they can be part of your New Year's resolutions if you're into doing stuff like that. Just we figured we'd brainstorm a few ideas of how to maybe how to like give gifts in a more sustainable way. This applies all year round, not just at Christmas. My favorite thing that I did last year was for wrapping gifts, which was to just use plain paper and get my nieces to color all over them, and then we wrapped presents, and it was super fun. If you don't have plain paper, like if you've already got a bunch of like artwork that your kids have done, you know, I know it's always a problem. Like, what do I do with their art? Keep it. Use it for wrapping paper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So fun. And I guess also the other thing, and I feel like I've talked about it on the podcast before, is like we just give one gift. We like for my family, all the adults in my family, we just pick a name out of a hat or whatever and give one gift to one person, and then you get one gift from one person, and it's great. Yeah, it simplifies things and makes things more sustainable because you just get somebody something that they really want or really need, and it's great. So that's me. Who's next?
Well, I stole your wrapping paper idea for this year, so now I've got that going for me. I do have some experiences in my gift purchases this year, which are always a great thing to do when you have the option. And yeah, I think that's really all gift things. The biggest thing I have is like there's so many, and we have been sharing them as well. There's so many fun, sustainable ideas for greener Christmases that you might see too late. And so the thing I like to do is just write them down, like write a reminder in your phone, or even with your Christmas decorations, put a note in there. You can always put a fun note and then some reminders of stuff to do next year. Like, look at this, see if you can do that, buy some this wrapping paper, or all sorts of things, because every year you can make a difference. And just because you saw something about a fun gift you could make or fun decorations you can make after all your decorations are up doesn't mean you can't do it next year. Christmas is Christmas.
Or you could make the decoration, doesn't have to be before Christmas. You could make it in the weird inter holiday period of Christmas to New Year's if you have time then. Make decorations then and then save them for next year. Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be a fun surprise. Unless you're doing like things made out of oranges.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Gross. Save that for next year.
Bad news.
Mine is actually a little bit of, well, I have two, I'll say, because one is a gift idea and then one is a resolution I'm making to myself that I am going to say out loud to all of our listeners on the podcast to hold myself accountable to. Ooh, scary. So the idea for gifting is, in particular for kids, because that's what most of my gift giving is revolving around now as a mom of two. So with my oldest son, James, we have a different kind of advent calendar set up to your typical, let's go get chocolate-filled advent calendar at the store, which I love, but he can't have because he has a serious dairy allergy. So a few years ago, we invented, I'm sure this is on Pinterest and in Etsy, so it wasn't like our invention, but in our household, we invented little stockings that we would fill with just random little things from around the house every day leading up to Christmas to count down the days in December. And this year and last year, in addition to whatever kind of like little, it's really, really little things. Sometimes it's a snack, sometimes it's socks, like just anything in between. We've been putting acts of kindness in. And so when he wakes up in the morning, he checks his little stocking, he finds a little thing from around the house and an act of kindness to do. And I have been so proud to see how excited he gets about reading and completing his act of kindness for the day, to the point that I don't know if he needs the thing that goes with it. He's so pumped every day when he gets it. He that's the thing that he runs to Jan and I to show us, like, look at my act of kindness. Also, he can't read yet. He's 4. So like he does need us to read it for him, which is probably part of that. But some of the things that he's been doing are, today's was like compliment someone on something they're good at. Yesterday was call somebody to tell them you love them. And so what's really, really nice about the act of kindness, it's a gift for him because he feels really kind doing those things. It's a gift for the family because we get to experience that with him, but it's also a gift to whoever that act of kindness is going towards. So, yesterday he called his grandmother out of the blue. Not a planned call. Now, this might not work for millennials because we don't like to answer the phone. But for the other next generation, it was so nice. And it was the shortest phone call ever. I just called to tell you I love you. That's my act of kindness for the day. I love you. I love you very, very much, far more. Bye.
That's funny.
So yeah, it's just been really, really wonderful, and it's been kind of fun coming up with them. And
nice.
We've done it for Advent for the last 2 years, but I am inspired by him and how much he likes it to try and keep it going after. Though that's not my resolution. My resolution is, as we've discussed on the podcast before, I try to shop local. We all try to shop local when we can. I try to go to places to pick gifts up rather than have them ordered. We're all human, and at the end of the day, I still find that even though I'm looking for Canadian companies and looking for locally made things, I order from Amazon a lot. I'm just admitting it. I am an Amazon orderer, and I feel bad every time, both for the impact that has on the environment and on people from like a work ethic perspective. And it's just convenience. And especially as a parent, it is so effing convenient. So I have made a New Year's resolution that I am putting out here on the podcast because I really, 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 really want to try for the entirety of 2023 to not order a single thing from Amazon.
Good for you. That's awesome.
That's
Thank
awesome.
You. I'm not saying I'm not going to order things online because sometimes it's just the way it has to go, but I am getting rid of my Prime account, which will make it a lot harder. And to just have that as like a go-to. And that is my goal. And I am saying it to the wilds of the internet and our listenership to try and hold myself accountable because I am a little bit scared. But especially now that, my kids are both big enough that like having a newborn just shocked me to my core when my first was born, and then it was just so easy with the second that now it's like, oh no, like you're fine if you're with somebody else for a little while and I can go to a store to find something.
Or also like you don't need everything in one day shipping.
True. It's okay. It's okay to wait. So there we go. I've admitted to my faults and what I'm going to try and do to fix it.
See, I don't think it's necessarily a fault, but I think the fact that you feel bad about doing it means it's a good resolution for you to do. Like, because both you don't like how it makes you feel when you do it.
No.
So
I feel gross.
Yeah, so it's not a judgment on like the concept or anything. It's like, this makes you feel not great about how you spend your money. Therefore, you're going to do something about it, which I think is great. So that's the kind of resolution I like to see.
And on that note, I think that's the end. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with us through another year. It's amazing. We're so grateful to have you with us and listening to us and being a part of our community and our library. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode or any episode. Maybe you're binging us all at once, and that's awesome.
Fully support that.
Fully. So please visit our website, whale-tales.org, to find links to our various social media handles so that you can drop us a line and just say hi, say you're listening. We honestly love it so much. It makes our whole day.
Indeed. While you're there at our website, you can find out all the ways that you can subscribe to the podcast. You can check out our merchandise. You can learn about supporting us and becoming a patron. And you can read almost 1,200 whale, dolphin, and porpoise stories.
That's whale-tales.org Tales like the story, not tales like the animal.
And if you've seen a cetacean, we would love to add your story to our library. Click on the share link on our website. You can contact us on social media. We're at whaletales_org on Instagram. Or you can email us a voice memo and tell us all about your incredible cetacean encounter.
Finally, we would like to acknowledge that we recorded today's episode on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples and the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, as well as the homelands of the Tsawwassen First Nation.
Thank you again so much for listening and supporting us, and we hope you have a whaley great day.